What up? Thank you for being here. Today, I want to talk about veganism. Ugh, it's a dirty word, I know. But for 7.5 years of my life, I was a vegan. First 32 years, I wasn't a vegan. Then 7.5 years, throughout my 30s into my early 40s. Wait, yeah, I think that's right. No, my throughout my 30s, basically, I was vegan. So I think it was just around when I was turning 40. Yeah, just before I turned 40 is when I finally stopped being a vegan. And I'll get into that. So I'm going to walk you through what I outlined here. I didn't practice this, so I don't know how it's going to go. I just wanted this to kind of be off the cuff. So might be a little meandering, wandering around a little bit sometimes, but I hopefully it'll make sense. And we'll all get something out of it. And you can learn from my experience, because I don't want you to go experience 7.5 years of being a vegan when you don't have to, when you can hear my experience and you can learn something from it and put it behind you and decide it's not something you should probably do. Maybe. This is just my opinion through my experience. So what I'll start with is, like I said, I was 32 when I became vegan. It was 2015. And first I wanted to explain that I'm from South Louisiana. In the first half of my 20s, I spent there. And then I moved to Houston, where I spent the back half of my 20s and where I am here still today. So I grew up in a place where meat is very, very important to daily lives. Vegan, that's why it's a dirty word. And then, I moved to the city, which a city is definitely more friendly to vegans. But again, this is Texas, so not so much maybe as in some other places. But my point there is, it kind of came out of nowhere for me to be a vegan. It was something that I kind of always knew in the back of my head, that eating meat was maybe a little weird, and maybe there's some factory farms out there doing some bad things, and all those things are true, and definitely, there's a lot of bad things that go on out there. But yeah, somehow it broke through to me. It was March 2015. I was on spring break, where I had a week off from work. And I felt like, I was just ready for something new, ready. I was feeling like I was just kind of like, I needed to kind of slow down more in life, it's my early 30s and all that. And I got into like composting and, I don't know, just different things, I guess, in that age. And yeah, I watched some documentaries, and it was called Vegucated, was the one that turned me and got me in the cult. So I watched on Vegucated. It's like they showed some people watching a video, and like I watched them first watch it, and you see their eyes and you see how kind of like traumatized they are. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to see it, and then all of a sudden they turn around and they show it, and I didn't look away, and I saw, the bad stuff, the factory farm stuff. And we need to get away. We need a change. We need to find a way. That's what needs to stop. Anyway, it got me around the time, I guess, in the 2 years before that, I got my first dog from birth, Misha. She's still alive today. She's 13. And yeah, I guess I never loved an animal like that before. It's true. I had never loved an animal like that before. And I just, just to see her from, being, tiny, and I could fit her in my hands, to, thinking she would never even climb the stairs, and, then she's running up the stairs. I got to kind of see that evolution of her from birth, and I saw animals different. And when I was watching that documentary, I think it was a cow or a pig. No, I think it was a cow. Yeah, I don't know. They just showed the eyes, and I was picturing my Misha's eyes, and boom, it was like this light bulb, like connected, and I just couldn't disconnect it for a long time, where like I felt I felt like I was contributing to this, that, you know, maybe if I didn't contribute to this, I would probably it was some ego, like I'll be a better person, but also like it made me feel better about myself because I felt like I was doing something important for mankind. And also it was way better for the environment. So that was another thing that was attractive to me from other documentaries I had seen, like Cowspiracy, that said all this stuff about, you know, how much more harmful it is to the environment to eat meat. Yeah, and then of course, so I talked about the ethical reasons why I became vegan, the environmental, but also the least important was, but also a main benefit why a lot of people do get into veganism is for health reasons. And there are, if you're gonna leave a standard sad American diet and then become vegan, I definitely could see where no matter what, you're gonna have benefits because you're paying attention to what you're eating. But a lot of times, and that's what happened to me, you fall right back into that processed lifestyle where there's the market became just kind of saturated with Beyond Meat and all these Impossible Meat. You know, I was eating processed food again, you know, and then you lose those health benefits. So yeah, you know, as you're becoming vegan, you kind of come out. You know, it's like, oh, well, I'm vegan now, you know, and it comes up every single day. You'd be shocked, like how much, I don't know if this is just a southern thing, but I mean, it just always came up. And, you know, what's interesting is people always had the exact same comments about it. You know, it was very predictable. You know, well, where do you get your protein? You know, just different things like that. Always joking about, you know, that all I eat is grass and things like that. A lot of jokes, a lot of the same jokes. But anyway, yeah. Okay, so my next section here is, so I covered this, and now we're gonna go to entering the cult. All right. So yeah, so one bullet I have here is that I never fit in. I didn't really like vegans, and you know, I hate to like offend a whole group like that, but I don't know what it was. I kept trying, but it was just, I don't know, I just couldn't find anything in common, you know, and everybody's doing it for different reasons, but I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna think more about like what it was exactly. But it was kind of like sometimes it did kind of feel like I'm better, I'm judgy, you know, all these different things. And that is, and I've definitely, part of this was, yeah, I did feel that way. You know, you kind of get absorbed in it, and then you start to look at other people that aren't doing it. And then, you know, you probably feel like, even though I never quite realized it, you probably do feel some type of like, not jealousy, but envy, even though I definitely never had that conscious thought, like, you know, because I was doing it for ethical reasons is what I would tell myself. I would tell myself, I'm happy this way, I'm happy this way. And I think that's part of the cult and the reinforcement, you know, especially when you can get so narrow into a group of people like that, and you start to say the same things because you're consuming the same narrow information. But anyway, I just never quite fit in. I was in like groups and things like that, and I went to a few events, and a lot of it was just, you know, it was too extreme. Vegan police, right? Like, you know, just too serious about everything. You know, I didn't think everything had to be that serious when, you know, we're doing it for the bigger idea. You know, everything doesn't have to be so perfect. And with veganism, it needs to be perfect, or you're not a vegan. You're not considered vegan. That's cult-like behavior there by itself. You know, it shouldn't be like that. It's like, you ate fish, like, you know, a vegan influencer would get caught eating fish in a restaurant. Well, yeah, that's something different if you're saying you're vegan, okay? But the point is, that's how perfect you must be. Even if, you know, a doctor says like, oh, you should have some fish oil, you can't, because that's part of being an ethical vegan. Lifestyle. Oh yeah, I also got into the lifestyle as well. I'm just making sure this is still recording because I've definitely recorded and not recorded, pressed the button before. Lifestyle. So yeah, man, it's like I got a bunch of apps, and it's like you learn all kind of things like beer. They use fish bladder to filter in beers like Guinness, which Guinness changed and stopped doing that so that they can be vegan from what I remember reading in the news later. But a lot of beers do that. Same thing with wines. Not all wine is vegan because if they use like a piece of some type of, any type of animal, can't think of the word. It's not vegan. So, I'd be checking these apps, and that's what I mean. Like, I don't think it needs to be that serious, Same thing where it's like I did get rid of some leather stuff I own, and I feel sad about that. Like I had the perfect leather boots, no heel, they were just perfect for the winter. I donated them, but I missed them, and but that's how serious I was. I was so serious that I don't have any tattoos, but I wanted to get the vegan symbol, and this is like years I wanted to do that, but I never did. You're always capable of change. Is what I'd like to say about that. So I was into the lifestyle, and then, I wrote, I am the vegan now. Basically, like once you commit to that lifestyle, that's your identity. That's who you are. That's why it's so hard to leave, especially for truly committed vegans, even when you might start to have health issues, like what happened to me. It's like you're like, well, no, it's still for the cause, you put the cause ahead of your own health. Called like behavior. Judge and educate. I kind of talked about that. Yeah, you definitely become a little judgy. Oh, same, I already talked about that as well. Protein jokes. Oh, can you eat that? That, I can't tell you how many times someone would say, oh, can you eat that? Can you eat that? And what you were taught to say as a proper vegan is, I can eat it, but I choose not to. So you learn to say things like that, and you start to believe it, is what I would say. So it's really hard to break that identity. All right. Now we're getting to health issues. So like I said, it was before I turned, I guess I was probably around 39, whatever the math says is what it was. But I want to say it was 2022. That's right before I turned 40. I started having all these weird health issues, like my tongue had like this weird feeling. I was getting I just wouldn't feel well. I'd had rashes. I can't think of all my teeth. Like I feel like my teeth were coming. Like I could remember eating, and it was like they were like loose or something. It's like and every now and then I'll remember something that I guess I forgot or blocked out, but my health, I kept having like various lingering issues, and, that just wouldn't go away. Random issues, and, I started kind of like, oh, that's what it was. Yeah, it was subclinical hypothyroidism is what I got diagnosed with. I did go get a blood test and all that, and that's what they found. I had high TSH, and Hashimoto's is what it is. But subclinical to where I could get on medicine or not, and also was told that I was, that once I get on medicine, you're on medicine for the rest of your life. In case I forget to come back around to this, I am no longer on medicine, and it's been well over a year. It could be over 2 years now. I should, to be honest, I haven't gotten tested, so I'll have to get tested. But all the symptoms I was having, that's the other symptoms. Cold extremities, numbness, like in the toes, nerve pain kind of, just things associated. If you look up hypothyroidism, things associated with that. I had everything. The dry, oh my God, the dry skin, my face, it would just a lot of all that. Oh, it was terrible. Dry eyes. I'd have swollen face, fluid. Oh, so many things. I don't have any of that. I don't take any medicine. to this day. Yes. I don't know. I can't read my handwriting right there. Oh yeah, Reddit. Okay, I think that's everything. Yeah, and then I started reading. Once I was trying to figure out, I didn't want to be on medicine for hypothyroidism. I did take the medicine for about 1.5 years, and I didn't like, it was like hurting my eyes. I didn't like the side effects. I didn't like to take a pill every day, and I didn't want to do it the rest of my life. And I do have, it does also run in my family. My mom and my aunt also have it. And I don't want that. I don't want to take a medicine long term. So I was looking up natural remedies, and that's when I learned that my diet, my vegan diet, soy, carbs, all that, not good. Not good for hypothyroidism. And then I learned from videos that I needed to go low carb. I needed to go no soy. No raw vegetables. Wow. No, like I really shouldn't even be eating broccoli most of the time. Cauliflower thing. There are certain vegetables that are okay, but it was just basically like, no, like you're gonna take medicine if you're gonna keep being a vegan. And I don't know if the veganism brought it on. It's possible. I don't know. But that's what. Anyway, so I keep getting to the point is I started looking on Reddit, and there was like a Facebook group too of ex-vegans, kind of like, kind of seeing, all of a sudden one night, it was like a Friday night, I was, just doing research, and then I just made the connection that, like, it felt like I had to be vegan. Like I didn't have a choice. Like especially, when I used to go to work in person, and I was known as the vegan. Like if I was still at a job like that, then I don't know. Like if every day I was like, it would be very hard to break that identity. And most of my friends and family still live in Louisiana, so it was different. Like it was fine for me to be in the city, and the point is, I was working from home, being at home. It was just a kind of a more easy decision to make. Like, you know what? I don't have to be vegan. Like, I thought I had to. I don't know. I thought it was just who I was. And then once I had that realization that, it's okay to put my health first, I just made that decision, and I was like, okay, starting tomorrow, I'm not going to be vegan anymore. That's when I really got into the groups, and it was like, okay, well, what's next? Okay, well, this should be your first meal, and then you should do this. And I mean, I relied on that group so much, probably for 6 months, maybe longer. I very rarely, I guess I never go back. There was no once I got to a point where I knew that I was past it, it was kind of like going to rehab or recovery or something. Like once I got past a certain phase, I was good. There was never, once I made a decision though, like I'll never be vegan again in my life. And I just like to kind of go more into that right now before I forget. Because of the veganism experience, I'm so thankful for that, because now I recognize cult behavior and I recognize extremes, and I'll never let myself be extreme like that again. So I'm always questioning things a lot more than I did in the past. But now I understand food a lot more, and I have a greater appreciation. So I couldn't be more thankful for the time that sometimes feel like it's like I feel like it's like, man, I gave up a lot in that time, but I learned a lot too. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So next, getting out the cult. First week, I had like an allergic reaction the first week, ended up in urgent care. With insurance, $6,000 later, and all they did was, my face was like swollen. Don't get me started about that. Anyway, out of pocket, $6,000 just to give me a shot to make my face go down with insurance. I'm getting upset. Okay. I already talked about identity. Telling others. Telling others at first was, it was kind of like, I felt like I had to kind of over-explain a little bit. But really, that only lasted about a month. Once I started feeling all the benefits of eating meat again, I was like, it was almost not a joke, but like, I would smile and kind of laugh about it, like, yeah, no, not me. I'm not vegan anymore. It became easier and easier, and even like last year, I seen one of my coworkers at the office, and they were like, oh, here's where the vegan vegetarian section is, and I was like, it was so foreign to me. I'm like, why is she telling me this? And I was like, oh, like 4 years, like that. I'm way past that. It's been 4 years now. And I just find that so interesting. It was my life, and now it's never again. Oh yeah, and then now we're getting to 4 years later. Oh yeah, my reflections. Let's see. Yeah, I already talked about understanding ingredients. Like before I went vegan, I didn't even know that pork was both bacon and ham. I just knew bacon and ham. I didn't really okay, I'm sure at 32, I knew it at that point, but I mean, like in my 20s, I didn't know. I didn't know. That's how much I was disconnected from food. But now, because of veganism, I had to learn how to read every label. I mean, again, I can tell you there's a little fish bladder in beer. You think a normal person would know that? No. I know everything, about how things are made because of that. So I know how to read ingredient labels, and I understand even the weird sounding stuff in food. And it's made me less judgy. It's the craziest thing. One of my old coworkers from like my previous job, so from over a decade ago, called me 2-3 weeks ago. And he wanted to thank me for being vegan back when we worked together, because he's vegan now. And I can't remember. I think he said he might be vegan now, maybe 3 years, or at least a year. Maybe it's just a year. But he, and I mean, I was just shocked. Like, and when he first asked me about it, he's like, oh yeah. And I was like, me even made a joke about, oh yeah, I'm definitely not vegan anymore. And I felt so bad after, because I mean, he's so into it. And he's very happy. He's made a lot of friends. I'm not going to rain on his parade, and I'm not going to be judgy about it. But because I went through those health issues, and I now know that it's not a balanced diet, which I guess I really didn't get into all that. I forgot to mention, I was also super low on vitamin B and D. And, I always had iron issues, had to take iron supplements and things like that. Oh, and I had chronic low blood pressure. My blood pressure was like usually in the 80s and then in the 50s. So like, maybe 82/59. It would go into the 60s. But, and it would also, the top number would go into the 90s. But the whole, that's it. Now I'm back, around 110, in the normal range, but below. But yeah, that's the tongue issues and all that. B and D from what I understand. Let's see. Oh, and I was taking supplements. But I do think you need the animal you need to get it from, I don't know, I need to get into the health part of that a different day, because I'm getting to the end now, and I've been going a while. Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to give this analogy, another thing that veganism taught me. So, and I'm going to talk about broccoli again somehow. Think about broccoli. You can have broccoli, let's say you put it in an air fryer, or, you just roast it with just like maybe olive oil, salt, pepper. It's actually super good, especially with a little lemon juice on top or something like that. But then if you have that same thing, but then you throw some cheese on top, now you got broccoli and cheese. Wow. I mean, broccoli and cheese, way better, right? But was anything really wrong with just the broccoli? Did you really need to add the cheese? Well, once you have it, yes, you need it. But once you get used to just the broccoli, which is actually delicious in itself, once you can appreciate just the more simple, rather than keep adding, try taking away. As humans, a lot of times in everything, we always want to add. Try taking away, take away. Try that. And that's what veganism taught me. I played Chopped, like that Food Network show, a lot. I had to play Chopped a lot and learn how to create my own meals to make things taste good. And use ingredients in very strange ways, like using, like the chickpea liquid to make whipped cream. yeah, like crazy stuff like that. Like I got into it. I learned a lot. Yeah, I just wanted to give that analogy and, just think about that. And yeah, it made me creative. And now it gives me so much joy. When I was vegan, there were things like crawfish boils, shrimp po' boys, well, oyster po' boys, crabs, steak. Those, I would say those things were the things, especially being from Southern Louisiana, those were the things I missed the most. And I knew that I would never have those things again. And to have all those things again, to experience those things for the first time after 7.5 years, like to have that first crawfish ball again, to have that first crab ball. Oh yeah. And so 6 months, I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. The summer, so I stopped being vegan in October of 2022. Earlier that summer in July, I had went crabbing with my family back home. And I, physically captured the crabs out of the lake into the bucket, counted them, all that. And I decided that day, I was already starting to have like some doubts with all my health issues and stuff. And I decided that I was going to eat crabs because I had caught it and it felt very like, and it was like with family and, I'm away from home. I was feeling nostalgic. So I was like, I'm going to eat crabs with y'all, this one time because it feels right. And I ate like 4 crabs and my family was so excited because they didn't want me to be vegan. And it was fine. And I felt, I actually nothing happened. It was all just fine. And then I just kind of forgot about it. And when I made a decision to not be vegan anymore on that Friday night, the very next day I had brunch already planned with these 3 ladies from my old gym. And we were going to this like French place. And they, of course, knew me as a vegan. And we went to this restaurant and I told them, I was like, yeah, I made a decision last night. I'm not going to be vegan anymore. And they were so excited. And they were so excited to be with me as I ate meat again for the first time. And I got salmon. And I could only eat half of it. But it's like my mind just cleared. It was only just like, I want to say it was while I was still, like, it's like my mind like rebooted. And I forgot to mention that. That was another thing. I felt like I just couldn't think. It's like my mind was just like, it felt sluggish. I felt tired a lot. And maybe that was the subclinical hypothyroidism too, because tiredness is part of that and foggy. So it could have been that, but I don't know. I ate that salmon and just a few bites of it. I was just like, I ate half of it. I came home and like that afternoon, it was like, this is in October, but somehow in Houston, it was really hot. Well, that happens, of course. I just had all this crazy energy from that salmon. And I went running. Like I went to the local park near downtown and just went running out in Buffalo Bayou. And I felt incredible. Like I was just running. And I felt like I was back living again. I knew there was no going back. And anyway, yeah. And I've just had a much bigger appreciation for food. I don't waste meat. Of course, sometimes every now and then, but I'm pretty good. I'm pretty consistent. I'm pretty consistent about making sure I have better quality, better care for animals, things like that, meat. But all you can do is the best you can. I'm not perfect, and I do eat factory farm stuff too when I go out at restaurants. But at home, I try my best. I try to eat the right things, eat local, grass-fed, all those different things. And if you're still here, wow. That's the first time I got all that out, and I really appreciate you being here. And if you like this, please like and subscribe because I've got a lot more coming. And I can't wait to tell you about this, and I can't wait to learn and grow and share with all of you. Later.